All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Rachel Velasco. Welcome to my intro to car hacking talk. I am excited to be back at CarolinaCon, and thanks y'all for coming out. This is Catching the CAN Bus, car hacking on a budget. So again, I'm Rachel, based locally here in Charlotte. I've been in pen testing for a little while now, and I'm psyched to be joining IBM X-Force Red this summer. I'm also working on my master's in cybersecurity, and I'm a graduate of the SANS Institute Women's Academy, which is a great scholarship program if you're looking to start out in InfoSec. Outside of work and school, I'm all about supporting underserved communities in STEM, as I am a part of many of those communities. I'm an Next-Gen leader with Disability In. I am part of the North Carolina affiliate of Women in Cybersecurity, and I most recently became the U.S. East Coast Coordinator for Filipinas in Computing, which is an Anita Borg Sisters organization. I was a musician before I got into InfoSec, so you do not have to be a car expert to start car hacking. So, what is car hacking? First, let me tell you the story that drew me to all of this in the first place. We have Andy Greenberg, a writer for Wired magazine, going 70 down the highway in a 2014 Jeep Cherokee. Hackers Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek are miles away, telling him as they begin their exploit, "We're not going to do anything life-threatening, so don't panic." But they didn't tell him what kind of attacks they had in store for him. The two start by putting the AC on full blast, which is pretty tame. They cycle through radio stations and turn the music up to a deafening volume. Greenberg tries to undo this, but he can't change any of what they've done. Then they spray wiper fluid all over the windshield. Having your view obstructed while going 70 miles an hour isn't scary enough for you. Miller and Valasek just completely kill the engine. Justifiably, Greenberg freaks out. "Guys, I really need the accelerator to work again." They tell him to basically turn off the car and turn it back on again, just so he can regain control of his own vehicle. This wasn't the first time that the three of them collaborated on a car hacking story. Before this, Miller and Balasek were in the back seat, directly connected to what is called the CAN bus, to terrorize poor Greenberg, who was driving. This time, they used the car's onboard Wi-Fi to remotely attack the CAN bus. And as of the writing of this article, Greenberg hasn't quite forgiven them yet. And because of this high-profile hack, Chrysler recalled more than 8 million vehicles. The duo have spoken about this at several conferences like DEF CON and Black Hat. You can find a lot of their talks on YouTube and read up on the research for free on Illmatics. Now let's talk about abusing keyless entry. Security researcher Sammy Kamkar, Sammy is my hero, developed the Roll Jam in 2015 for under $50. The device would intercept and store the signal from a car remote that was currently unlocking its vehicle, and could transmit that same signal later to unlock the car again. There's a little more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. 2 years later, as shown in the video, these two men are using a relay attack unit to trick the car into thinking that its key is within range. And so the car unlocks. Another 2 years later, Evan Connect on YouTube has uploaded a video of a device with the same functionality, and he's selling it for $9,000. Sammy Kamkar said he can't verify the authenticity of the Evan Connect video, but says it's still plausible based on the state of hardware nowadays and on his own research. So, hacking cars to steal them isn't sci-fi anymore. This is an actual threat. Look at him driving away with the car. Goodbye, Mercedes. However, hacking cars does not automatically make you a criminal. There are lots of fun things you can achieve with automotive hacking, like improving the functionality of your vehicle or using it for gaming. First, we have Makina on the left. They fashion a way to start their car using if this and that and other IoT technologies. All they gotta say is, okay, Google, start my car. Next is OpenPilot, the top right, developed by Comma AI, which is an open source project meant to improve already existing driver assistance technologies like adaptive cruise control and automated lane centering. Unfortunately, the hardware is expensive, and their list of supported cars is still relatively small, but that list continues to grow. And finally, in the bottom right, we have researcher Pikachu using his lame-ass front-wheel drive car to drift. In a game, of course. He's converted his mother's Fiat 500C into a gaming controller and ended up developing the CAN pad. So the CAN bus. This is what we use to actually hack cars. CAN is the controller area network. Cars now come with lots of little computers called electronic control units, or ECUs. And there are many kinds of ECUs. There's transmission control, engine control, brake control. What I have on the slide is not an exhaustive list. There could be one for controlling doors, telematics for cruise control. Basically, any functionality of the car could have its own ECU. And rather than connecting all the ECUs through a mesh, they're all on a centralized bus, the CAN bus. The CAN bus is more like a highway rather than the bus I alluded to in the title. Implementations of CAN vary by manufacturer, so you have lots of different flavors to reverse engineer. And luckily, CAN is low level and not encrypted, so you can inject your own data onto the bus. The easiest way to access the CAN bus is through the OBD2 port, commonly found in accessible areas such as under the steering wheel, like in this GIF. OBD is onboard diagnostics, which became standard in the US in '96. So let's recap the different ways to attack cars. First and easiest is physically using the OBD2 port to directly access the CAN bus. Next, we can use other networks that could be present, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or even through the infotainment system. We have keyless entry. And lastly, more and more cars have mobile apps, so these could be used to gain control of your vehicle as well. We're going to be looking at the Instrument Cluster Simulator by Craig Smith. Let me pull up my VM for you. Alrighty, so now let's dive into the Instrument Cluster Simulator, or ICSim. Starting by installing the dependencies for it. So as y'all can see, I am using Parrot, but really just use any Linux distro that you want. And what this does, SDL, it renders the images and audio for the simulator. Awesome. Now we're going to be installing CAN utilities. So this is installed by default on Parrot, but that is the command if you're not using Parrot. Cool. Now we're going to grab the actual simulator from Craig Smith's. Here we go. Move into that directory. See what we got. Oh, we have this setup script, and what it does is start up a virtual CAN interface for us to use. So let's actually run that. And let's confirm that virtual CAN is up, and it is. Cool. So now let's actually start up the simulator. All right, so here is what's called an instrument cluster. On this, we just have the speedometer, left turn, right turn indicators, and an overhead view of the car. On other instrument clusters, you'll see something for your fuel gauge, other indicators. But this is all we're going to be using in the simulator. So let's get the controls up. You can use a physical controller for this, but I will just be using my keyboard. All right, I'm going to hold the up arrow. See the needle going up on the speedometer. Holding down the right arrow, left arrow. Well, everything's working. Let's take a peek into the canvas. You ready? So this is the campus. It is super noisy, even though we're not actively sending any commands. And it would be nice to know what these messages do. So I'm gonna hold down, accelerate, but we still have no clue which of these messages sends the accelerate command. So what we're gonna do is dump this into a text file. And I want to figure out what message sends the command to turn the left turn indicator on this. So let's start the dump. I'm gonna hold the left arrow so that the indicator blinks 10 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We are going to look for a message that was in the CAN bus 10 times. No, I will not be looking at it just like that. We're going to sort through this. And we are going to look for the ones that came through 10 times. All right, so we have these to try. So this is what your CAN message looks like. This is the ID number, how big the message is, and the actual data. So what we're going to do is send each of these back individually and see if anyone triggers the left turn indicator. All right. So we're going to be using CAN send for this. We are starting off with the ID number. So it's this first 3-digit number right there. The pound sign and the actual contents of the packet. 1 FB. So you can see nothing happened. So we're just going to try all of these until find the one that turns on left turn indicator. Dice. Okay. Nothing. Still nothing. And yeah, so we have one left. Let's try. 88. And you see it blinked. So we can send back this message as many times as we want. And that is the very basics of car hacking and reverse engineering. You've only scratched the surface, but let's move on. All right, now that we've taken a look at IC Sim, we can go more into about starting your own research workbench. Probably don't want to sift through CAN messages and plain text files. So here's some free applications that you can use. Some you're already familiar with, most likely. You could actually use Wireshark for CAN sniffing or Metasploit's Hardware Bridge. You want something more CAN focused. Herring, Caribou, and Kayak are great places to start, and they are installed on Parrot by default. Next, we gotta find a way to connect our computers to our cars. Toyota researchers developed the PASTA, the Portable Automotive Security Testbed with Adaptability. It's a very cool open source tool that comes in a shiny, heavy briefcase, and you can get your own for a whopping $28,000. You might as well just buy a car at that point. Now, the pasta is not actually meant to perform live car hacks. It's more for brushing up on your skills before moving on to actual car hacking. So this is a very expensive IC sim. Now that you have some idea on why this talk is called Car Hacking on a Budget, here are some actual budget-friendly pieces that you can grab for live automotive hacks. Metasploit supports the ELM327 Bluetooth dongle, like the one in the bottom left, and these go for less than $20. It's a little slow and not the greatest for sniffing, but you can still transmit raw CAN packets using this dongle. MintyNet has been developing the Nano CAN bus for a while, which can get made for super cheap. He's also been working on a lot of simulators and a value version of the Toyota Pasta. And lastly, we have a couple of devices in the $50 to $100 range. So we have the car loop in the middle. You can grab one of the Makino devices, like the one on the bottom right. I think that one is the M2. And the Cantact. I personally have a Cantact. And I just got a hold of the Cantac Pro. So feel free to splurge on more expensive devices when you have the budget for it. Now we just need a CAN bus. If you can go out and buy a brand new car, awesome. Definitely do that. If you can't, we have some more options that are easier on the wallet. The ideal situation is grabbing a vehicle from a junkyard with its engine and electronics still intact. Maybe something in the early 2010s. You could take it apart to give your test bench more portability and easier accessibility to the different components, but that is not required at all. Alternatively, you can grab some ECUs off of eBay and stick them on a go-kart. Now this last one, I do not recommend. You can use your daily driver. Now, this is super dangerous, especially if that's the only car you have. So again, I do not recommend doing this. You might accidentally get your horn stuck and have it blare for all of eternity, or when fuzzing, blow your airbags out, or even void your warranty, but hackers don't care about that. And yes, you could improve the functionality of your own vehicle, but again, not something I recommend. There's some more resources. I have two books here on the connectivity of cars. There's this recent one by Alyssa Knight, Hacking Connected Cars. There is also this heavier one by Moeller and Haas, The Guide to Automotive Connectivity and Cybersecurity. I apologize if I did not pronounce their names correctly. But my go-to is Craig Smith's Car Hacker's Handbook. So even though it's a little dated, the foundations and concepts are still pretty solid. He has a free version of this up on the internet if you want to check it out. But I like having physical copies. I think I saw that he was working on a second revision of this, so we might be getting an update soon. So some communities to reach out to. Craig Smith has open garages. If there isn't one near you, he has some detailed instructions on starting your own open garage. ASRG, the Automotive Security Research Group, has several chapters in the US and worldwide. They host monthly events and training, and they've been really helpful from the events that I attended. There's also the car hacking subreddit, and it seems like a safe space to ask questions and see what other projects that everyone else is working on. I haven't had any issues in there so far. And of course, we have the Car Hacking Village. I had a wonderful experience with them at DEF CON. They're all really friendly and love helping people start out in car hacking. They're starting to do more virtual conferences like PancakesCon, so definitely check them out at their next online event. So after all this, if you've decided you don't want to hack cars, no problem. Here are a couple of things you can do to secure your vehicle. As with all your other electronics, keep the software updated if you have a newer car. You can usually do this using a flash drive or just bring your car to your dealer. Lock down Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Use memorable passphrases so you don't have to keep changing your pet's name. Last, you can prevent relay attacks by storing keys in a Faraday bag. So these stop the signals out from getting out for about roughly $20, depending on how big of a bag you want. And what are the chances some hacker is going to drop a 0-day to steal your car? It's not very high, but it's also not zero. If you don't want to deal with any of this, just get an old car or don't have a car at all. So thanks everyone. I'm Rach_Velasco on a lot of social media. You can shoot me an email. Thank you to everyone at CarolinaCon and enjoy the rest of the conference.